Morning rain showers have moved through Northern California and left us with a damp racetrack at Sonoma Raceway, but the excitement in the air is palpable as we get set for race 2 of the 2025 season. Hello and welcome to Pirelli GT4 America. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and Amanda Busick will be patrolling a damp pit lane. But Cal, we've had some rain. We've raced in the rain in other series earlier today. The rain has stopped, but the track, as you can see, is still damp, and that will make for some interesting decisions for these teams here in race 2.
It really will. I mean, the track was almost undrivable for the GT America race earlier this morning, but right now I think these track conditions should be fine to have some good green flag racing. However, I do feel a lot of these teams got some kind of a recce in terms of what these conditions would be like with some of the damp conditions we had earlier in the week on the practice day, so they should be in good shape here.
They'll be putting that information to good use. Speaking of information, let's get some from the grid. Amanda Busick is standing by, and let's check in with her now.
Hey guys, yeah, we have lost a few layers down here in terms of rain protection, but I hate to say I do see a couple of droplets falling in front of my hat currently, so hopefully it'll stay just as sprinkle showers and nothing more of significance. And hats off to Sonoma Raceway for just doing work around this track, had the tractors out trying to get some of these puddles handled as well. When you talk about decisions, one of the decisions that the teams have to make here this morning as we get racing for race number 2, especially in these conditions, is tire choice. I walked down actually with the Pirelli representative expecting every single car to have on wet tires, but believe it or not, there is a lone car on the grid that has decided to put on those Pirelli slicks. It is the 606 entry from Thunder Bunny Racing. I took a look at the nameplate in the window. I do believe Laura Hayes is in there, so we'll see how that one develops, and drivers have started their engines down here, guys.
You're right, Laura is set to start the race, and look, it's a gamble. We often talk about the fact in this series you do have a pit stop, but you don't have tire changes. I forecast a few tire changes before the end of this hour-long race.
It's possible. I think the difficulty with going on slicks right now, there's no tire warmers allowed, and it's still relatively chilly out there, so it's going to be really hard to generate any tire temperature, let alone the fact that you don't have the treads to help you deal with some of the heavier watered areas around this race circuit. So that's going to be really difficult to keep that car under control.
Let's talk weather conditions. 51 degrees, but still a lot of moisture in the air, even if it is only sprinkling. 96% humidity at this stage, and a couple of cars making their way around the Thunder Bunny Racing Supra. Maybe having second thoughts here on the grid, I don't know. We'll have to try and get to the bottom of that, but that is the only car that we had heard was perhaps going to start on the slicks. And just looking at the spray coming off of these race cars here under these slower conditions, it doesn't look like this is a set of conditions that are ready for those slicks, so we'll see what the team elects to do. In the meantime, let's take a look at how this field will line up. On pole position, ex-IndyCar driver Matheus Leist will have Tyler Gonzalez alongside. Then it's Parker Thompson and Kenton Cook. In the third row, Josh Green and Riley Dickinson. Fourth row, Luke Hartog, the Dutchman, will start alongside Tyler McQuarrie. Mark Miller out in row 5 next to Michael Cooper, a winner yesterday in class. Zach Anderson and Dave Ogburn will roll off 11th and 12th overall. Then Jonathan Neudorf and Matt Bell in that McLaren. Thomas Merrill and Kenny Schmid. Schmid and Gerasi winning in the M class in race 1 yesterday. Then you get to Braden Arthur and Nikolai Elganian. Charlie Postins and Hannah Grisham will roll off 19th and 20th. Alex Garcia and Laura Hayes, if she takes the start from that position. Then Stu McAleer and Lucas Catania, Aurora Strauss and Tyler Stone back in the 13th row. Sean Gibbons and Danny Deshelski in row 14. And Michael Kanishak scheduled to start in the 29th and final starting position. Those two final cars actually will be pit lane starters, both penalized for contact in race 1 yesterday, and because they were both out of that race, that penalty carried forward to race 2 and will start from the pits. Well, let's get more on that story from Amanda, who's got more information for us on the start of this race.
Yeah, guys, as that Thunder Bunny Supra gets pushed back to their pit box, I did hear from the team it is an electrical issue that they have to address, but I also hate to report that down here on pit lane, we're seeing sideways rain again, guys.
Just in time to get started. Amazing, because we had a bit of a break. In fact, the race that was scheduled to precede this one was postponed to a later weekend, and during that time, it seemed like conditions were improving. We were quite optimistic about the start of this, but that's not the report I think anybody was looking for.
No, certainly the conditions are, even now with the rain coming down, better than we saw for the GT America race earlier this morning, where we did have a little bit of chaos. I think the key is they're doing 2 formation laps here. The clock is now starting here with the pole sitter crossing the start-finish line, so the clock is already underway. 60-minute race, 1 mandatory pit stop, 35-minute maximum drive time. But you know, it's I think if we can get going green and it stays green, then the racing line will develop. But I think what we had the problem with this morning and the earlier race was constant cautions, and the racetrack never got cleared. So when you go back, you just got to flood the racetrack. So I think that's going to be critical to see if we can tiptoe around for a few laps, get these cars moving and moving some of the water around the racetrack.
2 decisions made by race control to try and encourage that outcome. Number 1, this second formation lap, only 1 is in the sporting regs. The second one, when added, then will trigger the start of the clock, as you can see at the top left of the screen. The other decision that's been made is to start this race single file rather than side by side. All of this done with an eye on safety and hopefully letting us have some green flag racing here at Sonoma, which is a treacherous place to begin with. 12 turns, 2.5 miles, and about 15 stories of elevation change, but especially so with all of this moisture and all the sealant that's gone down since the repave last year. Now, interesting, we noted that the 2 cars, that BMW coming through and this Porsche, would have the pit lane start. Since technically the race is started, they have fulfilled that obligation. Yeah. They get a bit of a break here as they're allowed to rejoin the back of the queue.
Yes, they do, and actually they can sort of like get a bit more of a feel for the racetrack in that half lap they got before they just caught the pack here entering turn 7 to feel the racetrack out a little bit, maybe make some adjustments to the electronics. ABS on these cars, of course, and traction control. And some of these cars, like the BMW, new Evo BMW, has a much more advanced traction control system, which has kind of smaller segments between each setting, so that could be a big advantage for the BMW drivers. Talked about it in the dry. They enjoyed what it was giving performance-wise in the dry, but could particularly come in handy in these wet conditions.
Maybe a little bit of confusion there about whether or not this would be a single file start, but now everyone seems to have the correct message. So it will be the Brazilian Matheus Leist who will lead the field to green. Behind him, Tyler Gonzalez. Great to see that car set to take the start. They were scheduled to line up second yesterday, but electrical gremlins meant they missed about the first half of the race. Here we come, looking for the green flag. Lace taking a very circumspect approach to the start. The Rover Motor puts the pedal down and he accelerates away in the Nola Sport Porsche. Up the hill they come for the first time. Already a few cars making some aggressive moves deep in the pack. Lace, though, leading Gonzalez. And we do have a spin further back. I think that's Luke Hartog around in the ACI Motorsports car.
Not sure if he got touched there in the approach up to turn 2. Looks like everyone survived that moment, fortunately.
Reigning Carrera Cup North American champion Luke Hartog, who's now trying to recover, had pretty good track position to start. Side by side here as Kenton Cook is looking aggressive in the early stages. He's alongside that blue Supra of Parker Thompson. Thompson's able to hang on to the spot for the moment, so it's Porsche from Supra from BMW, the top 4 here in the opening lap of green flag running.
Great racecraft there by Kenton Cook as he tries to take that shallow line through the carousel. 4-wheel drift there coming off the bottom of the hill. Tyler McQuarrie there had a great day. Nice podium run for he and James Walker Jr. here yesterday.
Going out wide. Whoa! Woo! It's bumpy out there. I'm not sure that part of the racetrack is usually utilized, but Kenton found some grip and was able to put the power down.
Yeah, I think fortunately that was a teammate, a Random Vandals car, Josh Green, right beside him there as he tried to make his way back onto the racing line, gave him a little bit of breathing room to do so. 3
cars out of the Random Vandals stable in Pirelli GT4 America this year, in addition to 2 in the Pro Class in GT World Challenge America. We'll see them a little bit later on. Windshield wipers going back and forth here in these treacherous conditions, coming around to complete the first lap of green flag racing at Sonoma Raceway with Matheus Leist leading, but the fight is on for second spot as Parker Thompson cleaves to the inside of Tyler Gonzalez, and he'll move up to second overall.
Second overall, he's still second in Pro-Am, so Leist who leads, and Thompson now in second of both same class cars, Pro-Am. Gonzalez continues to lead in silver. Kenton Cook still second in the silver brigade there, fourth overall as he climbs the hill.
As always in this series, mixes of classes. The only thing that separates the classes is the driver lineup composition, but everyone's still using the same SRO homologated GT4 spec cars.
This is exactly what I hope would happen, that would actually get a little bit of green flag racing here and allow these cars to circulate and dry out the racing line a little bit.
Cook with his teammate right behind him. That's Josh Green. Talked a little bit about him yesterday at Random Vandals. Team is super excited about his prospects with them as Tyler McQuarrie went for a bit of a wild ride.
Yeah, and then he had to almost correct it through that little kink there coming off of through turn 5. That's how treacherous it is. Now he runs the outside line, but that BMW right in front of him. But Zach Anderson takes away the line a little bit, yesterday's winner.
Whoa, lots of opposite lock there as we see Hartog trying to recover from that opening lap spin. He just picked up another spot, that time around Ogburn, the leader in the AM class, so put Hartog now back up into 11th overall, but still a lot of work to do within the class as he's stuck down in 8th right now.
Yeah, he's got immense experience in these type of conditions, so I'm sure he's not happy about having that little moment there. Luckily he survived, didn't get collected there as the rest of the field came through turn 2.
Teammates out of the Skip Barber stable. Excuse me, that's not correct. That's the 2 JMF cars running nose to tail. And Bell lurking in the background in the McLaren, left the door open, and wow, that was a bold move up the inside. Charlie Poston's not waiting around to come forward.
Yeah, well, this is a summer day in England, so the Brits should be at home in these conditions.
That was for 16th overall. That's the second place car in AM. Let's keep an eye on Charlie. He's got about 4 cars to overhaul to get to the next car within his class. Meantime, we have a penalty for Tyler McQuarrie. Incident responsibility, drive-through penalty coming. I suspect that had to do with the spin we saw from Luke Hartog in the opening lap.
Yeah, it's tough to tell as they came through the spray there if there was a nudge or not, but Hartog certainly went looping around and hurt his day a little bit, so tough though. I mean, everyone's trying to coexist. Everyone's going to ease off the throttle a little bit, adjusting to someone right in front of you. It's easy to run over someone.
Background, got a look at Thomas Merrill taking a peek at Dave Ogburn. Merrill charging up through the field.
At least you got 2 laps to serve this, otherwise they'll stop scoring you, so you're allowed to cross the stripe 2 more times. I'm not sure if he got that penalty before he hit the stripe the last time. May only be able to go 1 more time by before he has to hit pit lane.
Race winner in Pro-Am a day ago, Michael Cooper for Black Dog Speed Shop in this McLaren. Just picked up a spot on the last lap. Up to 5th in class. He's got Mark Miller behind him, the veteran from the Holland, Michigan area.
Look at these driver lineups this year. You got Leist leading, Thompson second, Gonzalez, Cook, Green, Dickinson, Cooper, Miller, Anderson, Hartog the top 10.
Yeah.
Top-notch drivers, every single one of them.
We've got the last 2 Carrera Cup North America champions as pros in this field. You've got an IndyCar driver in Leist. You've got a factory-affiliated driver in Parker Thompson. Kenton Cook, who has a chance to go for an overall win in GT World Challenge America later on today. I mean, the list just keeps on coming at you, doesn't it? Which is what makes especially this segment of race 2, when you've got all the pros in the Pro-Am cars by and large, it makes it so captivating.
Really does, and you see all of the drivers up front here adopting a different line to you typically see in the dry, like exiting in the chicane in turn 9, middle of the road braking for turn 11. You're just trying to find the bite in the surface. There's been a sealant that's been put down since 2024 when we raced here. That makes that normal racing line very treacherous.
Mentioned that we have the last 2 Carrera Cup champs. We also have the last 2 GR Cup champions in this field, in the same car, in fact, with Tyler Gonzalez.
Hartog on the attack there in that number 9 Porsche. Anderson slips wide. Hartog just straight line acceleration, gets the bite and the power and the traction to make the move.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Luke Hartog, such a talent. Oh, got a little nudge up the backside that time from Anderson.
They're not even in the same class. That's how competitive these boys are as Macquarie serves his drive-through penalty. This will cost you about 40 seconds to the field, a 50-second transition time down. Oh, that was a bit harsh, I'll be honest with you. I think both cars were a little bit sideways there, yes. Macquarie just hooked into Hartog and turned him around, but I think they're both just scrambling for grip.
Racing line maybe starting to dry out in a few parts of this track, but then you come to this section here and the spray looks worse than it has pretty much all day long. Great start to this, though, in difficult conditions. Mateus Lace continues to lead by 0.8 of a second, but watching this recovery drive from Hartog, that's been thrilling here in the first 10 minutes and change.
Yeah, and the other thing to factor in here is in the Pro-Am lineup is pretty much the pros who are starting race 2 here in these tricky conditions. So if the rain should ease up a little bit and this racetrack gets any drier, it could make the task and the challenge a little bit less for the AM drivers who will be doing the second stint.
Tell you what, although Hartog made the pass on Anderson, Anderson's not going away, is he? Still good pace in that BMW, and there are parts of the track where the BMW looks to be a bit more settled than the Porsche.
Yeah, it really does. And for Zach Anderson, he's sitting down there in P10 overall. The 2 silver cars ahead of him in his class are sitting P3 and P4. That's Gonzalez and Kenton Cook.
Let's give a call to Dave Ogburn here from Richmond, Virginia. Originally now calls San Angelo, Texas home. Driving that bright yellow Fast Track Racing BMW. He's the leader in the AM class, and he is keeping Thomas Merrill at bay. That is no mean feat. Thomas is an excellent driver with a lot of experience.
Ton of experience. Merrill really regarded like a super-ons, and they switch positions right there.
Yeah, able to finally make the pass, but he sure had to work for it. Meanwhile, Charlie Postins is just throwing his BMW around, and now he just has one car between himself and his class leader. Wow.
Yeah, he's really got that car by the scruff of the neck there, just trying to wrestle some speed out of it.
He's dragging Matt Bell along
Here
with him.
Go.
Oh boy, this is at the front of the pack.
This is really compressed here. I'm not sure if Lace had a moment, but suddenly Thompson is right there, and Gonzalez and Cook in close proximity as well. 2 Pro-Am cars, then 2 silver cars, top 4.
Oh, Lace goes wide. That opens the door up to the inside. He sees that Supra coming and has no recourse but to settle in behind. Parker Thompson has driven to the front of this race now.
And Josh Green is really putting pressure on his teammate, Kenton Cook there. Pro-Am for Josh Green, the second of the 2 BMWs you're looking at there. Then the CrowdStrike entry just ahead, coming off a runner-up finish yesterday.
He's trying to get back into his rhythm, now dealing with spray for the first time in this race, having started on the pole position and led the opening 5 laps. Parker Thompson, though, starting to build that gap, and now Tyler Gonzalez is lining up to take a shot at Lace. And look at the queue that's lining up behind Kenton Cook as well. It's a whole host of cars nipping at his heels. We'll keep our eyes on it, but now let's go down to the pits and get an update from Amanda.
Hey Ryan, yeah, taking a look at Grisham Wagner watching over this race with Tyler Gonzalez. You mentioned at the top of the show that issue that they had yesterday that took them out of competition for about half of this race, but it was a hustle by this Rafa Racing team to get this Supra back on track from the electrical issue that they were facing. No issues here today so far, but the team said that that is what would add to a championship season. They were able to get points in position 5, or P5 yesterday, so that could matter towards the end of the year as we head to Indy.
Yeah, that was big for them just to get out and complete half distance to be eligible for points. While Amanda was giving the update, Tyler Gonzalez was able to square up Mateus Lace, who looks to be struggling here as the track maybe is drying out a little bit, that the handling going away from his Porsche Cayman.
Yeah, maybe he went full wet with the setup there, and he's starting to struggle as this racetrack starts to develop a line. There's still a little bit of spray coming off, so it's not like it's at a point where you're going to be wearing out those wet weather tires, but maybe just the setup is not ideal as the track dries a little bit. Josh Green down to the inside of Kenton. 2 teammates once again, not battling in the same class, but Josh Green feels he's got some pace, nearly gets into the back of Lace. Kenton hangs on for now to that overall position.
Well, remember, Laced is a car for position as far as Josh Green is concerned, so that's why he has that urgency to try and get by his teammate. That's the Random Vandals team watching on. Kevin Boehm to the right. We saw Paul Sparta in the background too. Okay, Kenton Cook now, this time up the inside into the chicane, and he gets the pass done on Mateus Laced, and now Cook can take off in pursuit of Tyler Gonzalez.
Kevin Boehm's hair looking really good today. Didn't have the Luke going.
Kurt Boehm, as he's now known.
Kurt, is it? Or Luke? I thought it was Luke. You got it right, I'm sure.
Amanda will tell us. Look at Michael Cooper, who's caught this pack now. That McLaren package coming to life for Black Dog Speed Shop. They did a little bit of testing near their shop in Chicago at the Autobahn Country Club. Felt really good about what they were bringing to Sonoma Raceway, and Tony Gaples, who shares that car with Michael, said this feels like a real race car. He's really excited about their prospects.
Michael really working the different lines there. You can see him climbing the hill more in the middle of the road compared to the other drivers. So still exploring, still trying to find which part of the racetrack is going to give you the most grip. Lace really struggling here.
He's going to have to give this one up.
Green down to the inside. Dickinson looking for a way through in that green and white ACI Porsche. That gives Cooper the open door there. Just slides it through, takes a spot.
So easy to do, and the thing to remember is one lap to the next, the grip level can change dramatically with racing in conditions like these where the rain isn't constant.
Absolutely. And again, you can change some major stuff on the race car if you really think it's going to tip it down and be really wet. So some of these teams may have gambled on it raining more excessively, soften the car off too much for now this drying racetrack. That can factor in. And then just some of the cars and the brands, just the electronic aids that you have to work with, are more efficient in these conditions.
That McLaren, one of the newest cars in the GT4 paddock, and everyone talks about what a step they took with the Artura coming from the 570S. It's those types of systems where it's more purebred race car than its predecessor used to be. He's fighting on gamely though, doing whatever he can. But after leading the early stages of this, it just looks like that Nola Sport Porsche is recalcitrant, not giving him what he's looking for. Cooper sliding to the outside, and he's been really clever with his approach in a couple of corners, trying to find a way to get an advantage.
You could see there, Michael Cooper was outside on the wetter part of the racetrack, but he certainly held station with the Porsche that was more on the normal racing line, and that's just the bite that you get. Even though the racetrack was resurfaced last year, it still gets polished over the course of a full racing season, and outside that line it's got a little bit more aggregate to it, a little bit more bite, and that's where you get the grip.
After getting free of that traffic, Tyler Gonzalez has put his head down, and he has chased down Parker Thompson for the lead of this race. Now, these are two cars in two different classes, much like we saw at the end of the race yesterday with Pro-Am leader and Silver leader running nose to tail in the final stages. This becomes a question of how much risk are you willing to take when this fight here does not affect you from a championship position perspective.
Yeah, it's always a conundrum, but you'd love to have the biggest gap possible to turn this car over to your teammate. Both the drivers in that entry, obviously former GR Cup championship winners, Gonzalez 2 years ago, Gresham Wagner last year. But this Supra seems to be really hooked up. As Targa's had a problem, and you see the rear wing is damaged with the tail up, and he'd be taking the shortcut here, or just parking the car. No,
it might be day done.
Significant damage.
I hate to see that for Luke. Great young man, really talented, has a massive schedule with Porsche this year with runs at the Nürburgring and GT World Challenge Europe, all across the board, plus a partial schedule here in Pirelli GT4 America. But after the spin on the first lap, he was a lot of fun to watch, recovering through the field. Something seems to have gone amiss for Hartog and his co-driver Dan Seville.
Charlie Poston's there once again. He still runs second in AM. He's got Matt Bell right behind him. That team switching over from the Mercedes to the McLaren also for this 2025 season. That's the blue and white car right behind the black BMW.
He's been riding the tire tracks of Charlie Poston's for the last 5 minutes or so. Charlie trying to run down this car, the bright yellow machine of Dave Ogburn. Dave continues to do a great job in these difficult conditions for the fast track racing team. This is a look at what happened to Luke. Whoa, just got wide and backed it in hard.
Such a tricky entry there, the carousel, and you kind of run that high line, and he just carried a bit too much speed in, got the right side tires into the grass, and no recovering that one because the racetrack just falls away from you there.
Well, you don't see that often. Anyone who raced against him at Carrera Cup last year can attest to the fact that he was pretty much unflappable. Very out of character, but shows just how difficult it is when one of the best in the field has an incident like that one. Interesting that Kenton Cook seems to have gotten into a nice rhythm here. He's built a gap over Josh Green. There goes Luke Hartog walking under his own power into the safety vehicle. Tough way for their weekend to come to an end today.
Parker Thompson there in the lead, just laid down the fastest lap of the race at 1:59.08. So just to look like Gonzalez had a little bit more pace than our leader. He's responded here. Again, both cars are not running in the same class. Then it's going to be all about Kenton Cook. What can he discover with that BMW? With about a 2-second gap there between the lead, which is this car, Tyler Gonzalez in silver, and Kenton in his wheel tracks.
Track does seem to be drying out somewhat. We don't see the same rooster tail, the same spray that we did at the beginning of the race, at least. But when will you know, as a team or as a driver, that you're approaching the point where the wet tires aren't the ideal tire?
I don't know. I think it's a huge risk. I really do, because if you try and make a move offline, it's so sketchy right now. And again, I think the ambient temperature plays into that fact as well, and the track temperature obviously that relates to that is really chilly out there this morning. So it's not just how much dampness is on the racetrack, also how much tire temperature you're going to have with a slick Pirelli P0 and survive.
Did Thompson go off? I think
didn't see him in the picture there, did he?
I thought I heard some tires squealing. The leader did go off up the hill there. We'll have to follow up on that. Meanwhile, fight here as Braden Arthur just dropped behind Matt Bell, who has also passed Charlie Postins. Mateus Leiston still soldiering on, running in the fifth spot in class. He's got a stack of cars behind him, Amanda. What can you tell us about the Nola Sport team?
Yeah, I was talking to Matt Travis. They are pretty much leaving him alone out there and letting him kind of work through this with what he may be facing. They said that the Porsche was set up for these conditions. Could be a change in ride height, could be a change in that damper, so it could be a bit of an angry Porsche out there. But in assessment of what's happening here on pit lane, I do see drivers starting to put helmets on. I do not see any slick tires making their way to the pit wall, so I imagine it'll be continued with these conditions as participation continues to fall here on pit lane.
Thanks, Amanda. Move around the outside here. This is Mark Miller. Gets to the side of Mateus Leist, and they'll have to sort that one out. Meanwhile, the lead has indeed changed. Gonzalez and Cook are through, but Thompson has continued on as well. So whatever happened, it cost him about 6 seconds in Sector 1, but he's been able to get back on the pace after that.
Yeah, and we're about a minute away from the first pit stops potentially happening. By coming in now, you'd be able to stop for your mandatory 90 seconds and then have the second driver go out and not exceed the 35-minute minimum drive time. There you can see Parker Thompson just squaring off the exit of that corner, so he ends up on the right side of the road and able to put the power down with that Supra.
Did look like Leist lost that position to Miller and lost another one to Anderson as well, so the pole sitter has dropped down to 9th from the lead of this race. But let's keep an eye on Michael Cooper. He is running down this bunch ahead of him. That's the orange McLaren right there. They were fast yesterday in the dry, and that's transitioned to these wet conditions.
It really has. And the other thing, if we do believe that there's potential for this track to get dry enough to move over to the Pirelli P0 slicks, that may mean that you may change your strategy, elect to run a little bit deeper into this race before making a driver change. But I think the majority of these front-running cars have their pros in, so you'd expect them to maximize their drive time anyway. I still think it's not there yet. I mean, maybe you're going to struggle for the last 10-15 minutes, but I think it would be very risky to put slicks on in these conditions.
I think you're right. The strategy plays into the hands of these drivers here that are the pros starting in the Pro-Am lineups. This is Parker Thompson from the lead. This is what we thought we saw just a glimpse of a moment ago. Goes wide at the top of the hill. It cost him a couple of positions, but that could have been a whole lot worse.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre there because he ended up driver's left, so he must have had a bit of a tank slapper coming up the hill and just couldn't get it recovered and pointed back in the right direction. Normally when you make a mistake up there, you spear off to the right-hand side and into the track back somewhere down towards turn 3, but he's got enough experience and poise to just dust that off and focus forward. He's still leading in Pro-Am, which is the most important thing.
Cooper now has caught Josh Green. This is for second in class. There it is in the background. Michael looking to the inside. Green covers him off very aggressively. Forces Cooper to try the long way around, which doesn't have enough grip for that McLaren. Door still open to the inside, maybe slightly, but Cooper has to settle back in.
He's looking really good here, Michael Cooper, and hard to believe that he's going for his 10th victory here at Sonoma in SRO competition, having claimed his 9th win here yesterday with Tony Gaples.
I'd be curious how many different cars those wins came in. If you think about the fact that he has raced in one at the touring car, GTS, now GT4, and then GT3 level. Oh, and Charlie Postins, who was having such a great run. Left front damage for the two-time champ. Nope.
Two-time champions in this class, but they won races last year, were not a threat for the championship. James Clay, his teammate, got wrapped up in an incident on lap 1 yesterday. And pit window is open. Gonna have to wait and see if this car can get to a safe place. Not sure exactly where that is, whether that would necessitate a caution to come out. So options here, you can pit right now and you'd be okay in terms of the maximum drive time. So who pulls the trigger?
This is what happened. Watch top of the screen. It's a side-by-side moment. 3 cars all together.
Oh, he gets turned.
Yeah.
He may have even been coming to pit lane. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe he was intending to come down pit lane and just gets turned hard into that concrete wall.
It seemed like it caught Stu McAleer out. That was the blue BMW that made contact there. For the moment, still, nope. Right as I say it, full course yellow is thrown, and that might have saved the day here for Josh Green because Michael Cooper looked like he was set to take a lunge to the inside.
I think he got to hit pit lane. I'm not sure where the leaders are, but I think Parker Thompson was maybe coming through 9 and 10. Does he dive into the pit lane here? Saw it yesterday where the field was split with the timing of that.
Pit lane's closed at the moment with the yellow, okay. So that won't be feasible right here.
Kevin Bowman, we wish that happened yesterday.
Yep.
Because when he hit pit entrance time, the clock was not in his favor, and the tail end of the field were able to make that pit stop immediately. So this should equalize things a little bit and give no one a sudden advantage.
Yeah, I guess the only question is if you think your forecast says it could dry out, do you want to delay or?
Can't delay too much though.
No, you can't. You're up against the clock.
Up against the clock. You can only stay out there till 25 minutes left in this race. So I think as soon as you have the opportunity, as soon as that pit lane opens, you got to dive, even though you may not want to be getting your AM partner in just this early in the race.
Well, we'll see what the teams elect to do here. Your thoughts, though, is it still too wet to take a gamble, or if you're starting a little further back, do you roll the dice?
There might be someone who tries it. I mean, you can see the line there is getting wider. My concern is when it's just a single lane line, if you're trying to make any moves, but it is going to be super sketchy, particularly there's no tire warmers, of course, so when you put those slick tires on, and you're not generating any energy in them. The one advantage you may have is that the fact if it stays yellow, before you go back to green and you get those tires on, you're having a chance under caution to generate a little bit of tire temp versus being thrown out in the deep end under green flag conditions.
It looked like
tough call.
Yeah, it is a tough call. It did look like several drivers were running offline as if to try and keep their tires cool.
Correct.
So that would indicate that maybe you're starting to reach the point where these wet tires are starting to generate too much heat to be as effective as you'd like.
The other factor is, depending on your track position, if you've got good track position right now, doing a 4-tire change is not easy to get done within the minimum stop time, so you're probably going to be delayed and lose a lot of track position by making that 4-tire change.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a team that doesn't have track position now. That
these teams are not, I mean, I know there's some teams out there who have endurance racing experience, but many of these teams are not used to doing a quick tire change because it's not allowed under the normal regulations.
Right. Special circumstances, of course, with the weather conditions the way they are. We've been forced to speculate, but we won't have to wait too much longer. Pits are open. Drivers are standing by, as are the crews. A couple of teams with slick tires up on the wall. So we'll see what they elect to do. I said pits are open. That's what I meant to say if I didn't say that. And we'll take a look and see what the teams elect to do here.
How brave do you want to get on that minimum stop time? 90 seconds is the number. If you cut it tight, you could gain some track position here. Is anyone going to throw Pirelli P0 slicks at their race car right now? I think the majority will stay on these warm, wet weather tires and just try and hang on there for the last 10-15 minutes when it's going to be pretty brutal on those tires, because a wet tire is just not designed. Just the tread blocks just move around when the track starts to dry out. They overheat and it gets really greasy and really squirmy. It's a really bizarre feel. You almost feel like the car is broken when you're driving a car on wet weather tires in drying conditions.
A couple of cars elected to stay out, as you saw. We'll cover off that story when we can, but driver change is underway here. Getting ready to head back out. It does seem like teams by and large are sticking to the wet tires. There's JMF Motorsports. A couple of cars pitted nose to tail. Everything looks fine so far. No tire changes that we've seen. Watch this race off pit road here. It's now Gresham Wagner behind the wheel in the Supra. And the BMW splits the two. Kevin Bowman. Now for the Random Vandals team. So we'll have to see how this all shakes out. We've got at least one car that's slightly under the minimum. That would be the NOLA Sport car, Mateus Lace to Michael Oriema.
But by like 0.02 of a second, so that's nothing even with the multiplier of times 10. Couple of tenths.
Yeah, Tyler McQuarrie changeover to James Walker Jr. also fractionally under the minimum, so they'll have a time penalty coming, I suspect.
Yeah, this year's the change. It used to be up to 1 second you were allowed being underneath the minimum stop time before having to suffer a drive-through penalty. This year it's 2 seconds, but it's still a multiplier of 10. So if you say 1.9 seconds too quick, you're going to suffer a 19-second post-race penalty, which is devastating. So important still, even with that extra margin, to get it right.
And again, these two stayed out here, and I'm not entirely sure what the thought process there is. Hannah Greenmeyer for Heart of Racing, Matt Million for Auto Technic. Great to see that car repaired and in the race. They were caught up in an incident yesterday, and certainly that crew had some work to do on their BMW M4 GT4. Drivers now out of the car, and I'm sure they'll spend some time talking to their teammates, letting them know what to expect from a conditions perspective. But of course, you have this lap here, a good chunk of a lap, catching back up to the safety car, where you have a chance as the new driver in the car to explore the limits a little bit.
I think maybe Greenmeyer did pit, but they've got trapped behind the safety car, so I think they'll get a wave by so they can pick up the overall leader before we go back to green. So that will give them best part of like 7/8 of a lap, I think, by the time we see green flag racing.
Yeah, good catch. So that's Greenmeyer and a Million both in that situation there. So that's why they stayed out to get the lap
Sun
back.
is coming out.
How about that?
Tell you, there's going to be some very taily race cars by the end of this one if we don't see any more precipitation.
Amanda with the report that indeed Charlie Postins was coming to the pits when he got tagged from behind.
I don't think he would have been lifting at that point, but just Maybe the driver behind just didn't anticipate. It was Macaulay, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, him maintaining that line there, expected him to maybe move right.
Wave by process has begun, so those two cars that were still behind the safety car now have been waved past. They're back on the lead lap, and that then cycle, well, one of them has. This is interesting. I would have thought this Auto Technica car would have been eligible too, and now you can see from the safety car, they're trying to motion him by. Maybe there's some radio communication issues that make it not entirely clear. Don't want to pass the safety car until you're absolutely sure. Jacques Villeneuve can tell you all about it, as can Scott Goodyear at Indy back in the mid-90s. And we do still have some tire barrier repair going on as well, which could make this a somewhat lengthy full course yellow. That's one thing we hadn't mentioned yet, but that's been happening in the background as well. At Million, by the way, since we have him on screen, big deal for him in his career in the offseason. He was one of hundreds of drivers that applied to the BMW M Racing Academy and was selected to it. So getting a little support from BMW and trying to make a career out of this. Made his debut in the championship right here a year ago. Change in the AM class as the rigid speed team with some good pit work. Lucas and Joe Catania now leaders in that class. This is a look at their car. Long-time touring car competitors here in SRO America who made the step to GT4 midway through the season last year.
Yeah, great to see that family operation make the jump up to GT4 competition. I had so much fun watching them knock on the door so many victories over the years. Always regular podium finishes in our TC America Championship.
Definitely good to have that father-son combination. Now they get to share the car. They'll be trying to hold off this car. This is the winner in AM yesterday. Anthony Girassi taking over. Kenny Schmid had the finishing duties yesterday, started the race in those difficult conditions, and right now they run nose to tail with their class leaders, and only one car between Girassi and Judson Holt in the car that Denny Stripling started.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge here. It's going to be over 20 minutes here of racing. Hopefully they can get that safety bundle wrapped up here pretty quickly so we can maximize green flag running time, but this racetrack is really going to be drying out if we stay in these conditions till the end.
Yeah, this is the third place car in AM, as mentioned. Judson Holt now driving, so they lost some time in the pits to do some digging to see if they had a slower stop, but they came in as the leaders in AM. And one other piece to cover off, I think you got it right, Cal, but just to make sure it was clear, the reason that Million and Greenmeyer were a lap down is they had pitted before the yellow came out, I believe, and that's what trapped them a lap down and made them stay out there to get the wave by. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's hard to figure out exactly what happened. I mean, I think everyone pitted at the first opportunity when the pit line was said to be open, so I'm not sure they could have jumped that exactly and got trapped, but I think maybe they had slow starts potentially and then got trapped behind the safety car. I'm not quite sure.
Well, in any event, they're back on the lead lap now as the safety crew continues its hard work to repair the barriers. Tough to do in the best of conditions, and these are not the best of conditions with all the rain and the mud. Trying to get those barriers repositioned after the incident Luke Hartog had right through this corner here, the carousel, earlier in the race.
Yeah, good opportunity, though, for these second drivers to just get a little bit of a feel for the track conditions, just get acclimated with everything, get settled in, get everything dialed in, talk to the first driver over the comm system. That first driver can be a source of wealth of information in terms of identifying where are the tricky parts on the racetrack, what do you need to do, do you need to adjust your brake bias into certain corners. Certainly what you typically do in wet conditions is wind in some brake bars to the rear so you don't lock the front so easily. So maybe you can start to gradually move that brake pressure to the front a little bit more as it dries out, adjust the ABS system, adjust the traction control system so it's not so interruptive.
talked about a couple of pit stops that came in under. There were a few teams that had some disastrous pit stops. Indeed, the Judson Holt, Denny Stripling changeover about 14 seconds slow. The big one, though, Michael Cooper to Tony Gaples, that took nearly 2 minutes. So from, I think, second in Pro-Am at the time, they find themselves all the way back to 10th in class, 20th overall, with a lot of work for Tony to do to try and get back up through the field. And he's about to be turned loose to try and do just that. Safety car lights are off, and we are about to go back to green flag racing here with Gresham Wagner now leading for the Rafa Racing team in the car that Tyler Gonzalez started. Kevin Boehm just behind in the car that Kenton Cook started. Then the leader in Pro-Am with Anthony McIntosh in that blue Supra. Sam Craven for Random Vandals. Kurt Swearingen for ACI Motorsports. And Michael Oriema back up to sixth in the car that was the overall pole-sitting car at the start of the race. Here comes the leader into the VP acceleration zone, and Gresham Wagner leads the field to the green flag. We're back underway here at Sonoma with just under 20 minutes to go. 2
silver cars leads a batch of Pro-Am cars. 3rd through 6th is a Pro-Am category cars.
It's a fierce fight coming up the hill. Wagner trying to get away, but Kevin Boehm is there giving chase. In the meantime, McIntosh has his hands full. This is for the lead in Pro-Am. They're all stacked up, 1st through 4th in class. McIntosh left the door open just slightly, but Craven was unable to come through.
Swearingen there in that green and white Porsche sits there in P3, coming off an incident in GT America early this morning when the conditions were much worse, but it's probably going to take him a lap or two to get the confidence back into this race car and racetrack.
Penalty handed down for the incident that led to this caution. Stu McAleer handed incident responsibility for that one by race control. The fight resumes now. In the Pro-Am class, big move up the inside, a couple of Porsches collide. There goes Swearingen off track after being doored by Michael Oriema in the NOLA Sport machine.
Yeah, Michael just took in a huge speed into that corner and basically used the other Porsche to slow himself down.
Craven to the lead in Pro-Am, put the BMW up a spot around McIntosh in the Supra.
Random Vandals leads Pro-Am. They're running 2nd in the silver category as Kevin Boehm is trying to hang on to Gresham Wagner here. That Toyota Supra looks pretty handy in these conditions out front.
They're swapping positions there. That is the JMF car, Jesse Webb, I believe, possibly passing Adrian Comstock. Indeed, that was for 10th overall. Now Webb will set off in pursuit of the rest of the silver class that lies directly ahead. This is now Nate Cicero serving the drive-through for the contact a little bit earlier in the race. The car that Stu McAleer started the race in brought out the full course yellow 10-15 minutes or so ago. Battle is on here as Judson Holt tries to reel in Gerasi for the lead in Am. Eddie Killeen, the cork in the bottle just a bit in the Pro-Am class Mercedes. He's got the top 3 in Am stacked up behind him right here.
It's a tough position to be in, and the BMW makes a move around the outside. That's Holt there trying to make a move for the lead. Can he grab it by the time they get through turn 3?
Gerasi will try to rim right around, but he can't hang on. Put Holt through. Back to the lead,
look at
recovering
Garcia
nicely after the bad pit stop. Now Garcia trying to pick up the spot away from Gerasi.
Yeah, that's the purple and black car right there. 4th car in the screen right now. That's for 3rd, battling for 2nd in Am. BMW goes to the front of Holt.
In the background, Tony Gaples on his recovery drive.
Just a delay with the driver exchange and getting the car moving after that start just cost them dearly. He's got a fast race car to get his head down, does Tony Gaples.
Now, he's always known as a hard charger. How many times has he won the hard charger award over the years?
2-time winner here now at Sonoma, one back in 17. Of course, one here yesterday with Michael Cooper.
A lot of work to do, though, if he's going to repeat. Stuck well back in the pack after the hiccup in the pit lane. Eddie Killeen getting into a rhythm at the front of this battle. We'll keep an eye on the fight for the lead in Am, but actually we'll keep this here for just a second. As Garcia looked like he was ready to make a pass. Here comes Matt Millian working his way around the outside, trying to catch up to the rest of the Pro-Am runners, and this is really tight. Garcia reeling in Gerasi here. And in the meantime, great job by Holt, who has driven away from the rest of the class. Side by side into the hairpin now. To the inside in the white car, that is Gerasi. He's got Garcia to his left, and now the track comes back to Garcia here. Ooh. But this is a tough place to go. Full throttle through in the wet, as we've seen it. Oh, it's going to get really tight there. Contact, and it looks like some heavy damage, perhaps to Gerasi's machine.
Yeah, he might have broken the right front there with that contact with the Mercedes. It suddenly spared straight. Unfortunately, there's cutoff there between turn 1 and the exit of turn 6 as Colleen recovers now.
I hate to see that for Eddie and the Dome team. Mark Miller had a really good opening stint. Well, things starting to settle down just a little, so let's check in with Amanda in the pits.
Well, as you guys mentioned, it was a slow pit stop for yesterday's winner in Pro-Am. Michael, what happened during the changeover?
Just a little bit of stuff got caught up. Tony's cool suit was underneath him and a couple other things. Just, you know, you got to put the whole race together to get the result. We had a good opening stint, but we didn't execute the pit stop. So now we're pretty far back in class, and hopefully Tony can have a good race and make some inroads here in the next 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that for Michael. Tough circumstances there. It looked like they had a shot to go for another win.
They really did. It's damage limitation now, but Tony's got the experience. He's certainly got the experience on the pit box as well, with Ray Sorensen, the team leader, there to talk him through this. Just head down, focus forward. With the championship leaders coming into today, make it a points day.
Thought Gerasi might have had that suspension damage. I had the same thought as you, but he's been able to continue on with a little bit of a extra accessory there. He took part of the bodywork from the Dome Mercedes along for the ride.
See these teams really working the lines here. Some will be of the thought process, what's the quickest way? Other drivers are thinking about the big picture of keeping these tires cool and finding those wet patches to keep those tires cooled down.
Just saw another change in position. This is a really good charge from Alex Ellis. Remember, this car started from the pit lane. Ultimately was able to catch the back of the pack because of the second formation lap. But Ellis now, from the back of the field, is up to 5th overall. Another look at what happened a lap or so ago with Gerasi just getting into the side of Colleen.
Yeah, I think for Gerasi, he just looked up ahead and realized he's going to go straight. And if he got on that grass going straight, it probably ended up in the tire wall. So I think it was more evasive action. I initially thought, well, maybe he'd broken a toe link on that right front corner and he had no steering to make the corner. But I think he just looked up and think, I've got to bail on this now.
I had the same thought, that the car wasn't steering, so he just took it straight. But in any event, good news, he's able to continue. We'll see what race control thinks of that contact. Boy, Alex Ellis just charging up. He just got around McIntosh now and is 4th overall, just 13 seconds off the race lead. This is the 77 of Ellis right here.
And he'd love to have a big day, make up for that disappointment where he got a little overzealous there and had a moment up into turn 1. He gets in really deep there. Maybe he just found some grip there by running it straight and not carving through that initial apex in turn 7. You've got to see these drivers searching for water here to get to the finish line. Imagine it's like you're in some sports activity and you come off the pitch or off the court and you suddenly have a nice cold towel wrap around your head. That's what you're looking for these tires right now. Give them a little bit of a recovery.
McIntosh in a very unenviable position here. He's got a lot of the silver class front runners coming through. Uses the turn signal to indicate which way the traffic should go by, and he does let these two play through right there. That's Webb and Celia Haug. Haven't called that name yet in this race, but that was the pole sitter from yesterday. He and Ellis tangled on a restart and ruined what could have been a great return to the championship for Marco Polo Motorsports.
Yeah, it definitely was. They made a statement in qualifying, of course, but didn't get the result. Involved in that incident with Ellis, who made that move up into turn 2 and basically turned him around and ruined that day. But you know, there's a lot of pace there in this group. Great to see them back in our SRO paddocks.
Wagner leads from Bohm by 2.1 seconds. Craven is the leader in Pro-Am since 3rd overall. Penalty, post-race 5-second time penalty given.
Michael Oriyama.
Yep. That's the NOLA Sport car.
That was the move down into turn 7 where he just spared it into the other Porsche.
Yeah, exactly right. So that will cost him 5 seconds of time post-race added to his elapsed time. Whether or not that costs a position or two remains to be seen. Down to the final 11 minutes of this, we watch as Michael Garcia taking over for his brother Alex. They share this car together for the Skip Barber Racing School team, looking for that damp part of the racetrack, trying to keep those tire temperatures manageable.
Yeah, he has the lead right now, so that's going to be really critical in his quest for a win here this afternoon, right?
Yes.
Yes.
As the noon hour here in Northern California. Thanks for joining us wherever in the world you might be. We are here at Sonoma Raceway, race 2 of the Pirelli GT4 America season. This has been a fun one. Started off in the rain. The rain has dissipated. Did have the one yellow right around the middle point of the race, but by and large, it's been what you'd hoped for. But now this is going to be a real challenge as the dry line starts to emerge, but it's the same set of wet Pirelli tires that these cars have been on for nearly 50 minutes now.
Yeah, but it's fun. I mean, it's really fun to explore. I mean, it's no fun when you're driving in conditions where it's so wet, it's pretty much undrivable, and you suddenly have an aquaplane moment, and you're off and into the tires. This is fun to run in these conditions. Kevin Bohm really got the hammer down. That gap to the leader was about 2.5 seconds a few moments ago, and now it's down to just over a second last time across the stripe. Kevin Bohm has got the hammer down, just laid down the fastest lap of this race, so maybe they set the car up to be in more dry setup and for those conditions, and maybe this racetrack is coming back to the Random Vandal squad right now.
He took huge chunks out of the lead in sectors 2 and 3, about a half a second just shy of it in each of those 2 sectors on the last lap, but Gresham Wagner just responded with the best first sector anyone has done in the race so far, edging slightly ahead of Kevin Bohm. This is going to be great nip and tuck stuff, as Gresham Wagner, remember, is in just his second GT4 start, the graduate of GR Cup and MX5 Cup, and also a touring car champion here in SRO America.
Talking to Kevin Bohm this weekend about reflection on 2024, he said, I think I wasn't using the tire up enough. So under normal dry conditions, it's a single set of the Pirelli P0s for both drivers. He said, I really wasn't taking enough out of them. So that's my goal for this year. But right now, it's all about managing those tires in very different conditions with these wet conditions, and making sure that you saved them enough when you're able to, and have enough to really challenge for the win here.
Here comes Wagner, race leader in silver. Kevin Bohm giving chase. This car is a lap down, despite being shown 3rd overall. Let's ignore that for the moment. That is Gerasi. This is the Pro-Am leader, though. Sam Craven doing a masterful job. Josh Green got this car started. Oh, and McIntosh is off. That cost him at least 1 spot to Swearingen. Looks like Celia Haugen Oriema also got through. And up next, here comes Matt Million driving to the inside. And McIntosh might be headed for the pit lane. Right front might be down.
Yeah, it is.
Now is this
down? It's just on the rim, I think.
Is this?
Oh no, yeah, it's definitely down though.
Due to contact, or is this the wet tires struggling on a relatively dry racetrack?
Big day here for Random Vandals, potentially. Have the lead in Pro-Am. Kevin Bohm's on the attack, trying to chase down Gresham Wagner for the overall win and the silver win. Wagner has responded. Maybe he's got a little bit left. Maybe he was just managing his tires and then seeing the charge from behind. He's had to use the tires up a little bit more and find some pace.
He's a smart racing driver. 2-time MX5 Cup champion, including last year. Also won the Toyota GR Cup championship last year. And the first 2 champions of that GR Cup series share this car. Tyler Gonzalez, the inaugural champion, Gresham Wagner, who won it last year. This is what we expected from them. They never had a chance to showcase really what they were capable of yesterday with those electronic gremlins, but we went back after the race and checked their lap times, and they were right there with the very fastest cars in race 1.
Yeah, I think on paper they're the strongest combination. I mean, there's so many great cars in this championship, particularly in the silver class, but I mean, you'd have to think that those 2 youngsters are going to be tough to beat for the championship. And I think that's why every point in every position, even where at the opening rounds of the championship, oh no.
Tony Gables has found the tire barrier with 6.5 minutes to go. If he can't get out from there, that might break off this developing scrap for the lead of the race, and looks like Tony is able to drive it away.
Carousel once again catching out a driver.
First time today, and likely not to be the last, especially As tricky as it is right now, this track drying out now under the sunshine. Hard to believe. 54 minutes ago, we started this race and it was raining sideways.
It was. So Boehm's on the attack. I think it really comes down to now who's got the best setup for this dry racetrack. I mean, I would imagine that tire condition is pretty similar in terms of how these two drivers and their first stint drivers have handled that. And now it's all about what setup did you elect to go with, figuring out was it going to stay wet or go dry here before the checkered flag.
Kevin just reset the fastest lap of the race, but even in so doing was only about 1/10 of a second faster.
But he's closer than he's ever been.
Sure.
Half a second now. It's 2-3 car lengths.
Kevin comes from touring car racing, front-wheel drive racing. He doesn't mind if that rear end is sliding around. Look
Watch
at him
for the
go.
crossover here, trying to tuck it to the inside. Does he push it now? Is it go time?
Wagner leaves the door open. Boehm is able to carve that tighter apex and does grab the top spot from Gresham Wagner. Kevin Boehm takes Random Vandals to the point.
Beautifully judged. Great racing there with Gresham Wagner. Could easily got into the side of Kevin there and turned him, elected to just give it up. Random Vandals leading two of these classes here right now.
Kenton Cook got this show started, put on a great display, driving up through the field from 4th, put them in contention, and now Kevin Boehm trying to finish it off with that incisive move to the inside in turn 7 and 7A.
Yeah, looks like his car is just dialed in right now. It's obviously the driest conditions that we've seen in the first 55 minutes or so of this race, and the BMW setup, and Kevin Boehm has just done a magnificent job behind the wheel as well. What a day for that group. Team owner Paul Sparta, he's now in the podium spot in the AM class as well.
How could it be? Could it be? Well, we will leave it just there. We know how close Random Vandals has been to some big results over the years. They had a double podium in GT World Challenge America yesterday, running in really strong position in all three classes with just 4 minutes to go. As you can see at the top of the screen, there's a penalty coming for car 37 for incident responsibility. There's also a penalty coming to car 72, which is shown in 3rd overall. That's for shortcutting the course, evidently. So we thought Gerasi was a lap down, but he is actually running in that position. But that's because, as we saw, when he took evasive action, he cut through the center part of the track, and a penalty is coming their way, so we'll have to try and figure out where that's going to leave them. Garcia needs to get within 30 seconds in order to take advantage of the penalty and win the race in class.
Paul Sparta there chasing down this BMW right in front of him. That's for P2 in the AM class. Garcia's about 8-10 seconds down the road, so I don't think a win is feasible, but Paul Sparta trying to get to that next step on the podium. Coming back from injury last year, didn't have the great start he was looking for this 2025 season with an incident down in turn 4 early in the race, but he's bounced back nicely here today.
Yeah, along with Alex Ellis, that car was penalized yesterday, given a pit lane start. Here's Garcia to the inside. Oh, and a spin, that's Judson Holt. That was the car running 3rd in AM at the time. That was the car Paul Sparta was chasing. That moves Sparta up onto the podium, at least good enough for 3rd, could be more depending on the penalty for car 72.
Yeah, my mistake, I thought. So the 72 car, so that is for 2nd, right? Because I think 72 is going to get a penalty and drop down the order, right?
As I recall, it was a 30-second penalty for the shortcut, so it is to be determined how far they drop.
Yeah, that would drop him right now to 2nd, so Sparta would still be in 3rd.
This is what happened fighting with Hannah Greenmeyer.
Just gets in the dirt, just gets out too wide and just picks up those right sides on the maybe the white line, then into the grass.
Happened to Luke Hartog early in this race. We think he is a Porsche star of the future, if not a star of the present, so it just goes to show how easy it is to happen. Sparta continuing this pursuit. He needs to put his head down here and erase that gap. Limited time to do this. With just 90 seconds on the clock, it should be this lap and one more, I believe. To try and get confirmation of that, as Kevin Boehm leads now by 3.8 seconds over Gresham Wagner, but Paul Sparta is charging, trying to get to within a position where he can take advantage of the shortcut penalty that's coming the way of Anthony Gerasi.
Yeah, the other thing we mentioned at the top of the show with this new BMW Evo and GT4 has got an updated traction control system, and that could be helping out Kevin Boehm here as well as this track starts to dry out in smaller increments in simple language between each stage of that TC, so that could certainly be helping him out in these conditions. But what a drive by Kevin Boehm.
In 5 years of pro racing, he's never finished worse than third in a championship. A two-time TC America class champion, a four-time national champion at the SCCA runoffs, but looking for his first in GT4 machinery. Oriema off and on at the carousel. Another off-track moment here. I think that's
damage to that right front.
Silja Haug. Yep, the Norwegian who's off, and we're told this will be the final lap of the race. So we're coming to the checkered flag here. Silja Haug is going to try and limp that thing home. That could be a tall task. Here comes Kevin Boehm, though, as he starts the final lap of the race. So Silja Haug with a lap and change to do. I'm not sure he's going to be able to manage that.
Kevin very much in rhythm, but you can't afford to make that fatal error. I think the winner's in the bag. You got to watch those white painted lines and just bring it home. Following up on a bounce back yesterday. They had the lead just with the timing of pit lane opening. The minimum drive time, he wasn't able to hit pit lane like the second half of the field. His teammate Kenton Cook had to bounce back, drive through the field up to a podium run, but this is a great result for this group.
Told us after the disappointment yesterday of being caught on the back foot by the timing of the yellow, look, the results behind us, we're focusing forward. That's what they've done, driving up through the field from fourth on the grid to the overall lead, and ultimately it was the move he made right there in that corner around Gresham Wagner that took Kevin Boehm to the front. This is a team with championship aspirations, fought back from adversity to get a strong result yesterday and backing it up in really difficult conditions here in race 2.
Yeah, and hats off to Pirelli as well. I mean, for this wet tire to be surviving and making the car look so drivable in these conditions, that's really a great combination to have.
Kevin Boehm with just a couple of corners left, windshield wipers still going, but we haven't had rain in about 30 minutes. This race began in a downpour. Kenton Cook, his co-driver, put in an excellent opening stint, and it was left to Kevin Boehm to take it to the finish. Through turn 11 for the final time, the lead has grown to nearly 6 seconds. One turn to go, and Kevin Boehm and Kenton Cook take random vandals to victory lane here at Sonoma Raceway.
Brilliant performance. Kenton Cook there, his teammate is pumped, and here comes his teammate Craven.
It is a second win, a second-class win for Random Vandals as Sam Craven crosses the line. He and Josh Green get it done. Third overall winners in Pro-Am. And now we wait for the AM class. Gerasi has crossed the line. Now the question is Garcia close enough to take advantage of the time penalty? We'll find out as he crosses the stripe. It's the brothers Garcia to the line. There's the checkered flag, and is it enough? It is not. Gerasi holds on.
He did. I think he really pushed hard, knew that he had that 30-second time penalty, so he keeps the AM win. Sparto should finish on the podium in P3. Holt just off that now, that little moment he had.
Very interesting. Well, that shortcut moment didn't end up costing Gerasi the victory. Toyota Gazoo Racing with the win in the AM class. It's the Rafa Racing team, so they sweep the opening weekend of the season, and they do it bringing home a little piece of a Mercedes as well, still lodged in the side from some door-to-door contact earlier in the day.
Yeah, great run.
That Rafa Racing team, if you're not familiar with them, they only got started a year ago, running in single-make racing in the US and also GT4 European Series over in Europe, but merged with Smooge Racing in the off-season, and they have built a little empire in a short amount of time with programs in multiple championships, and they have been winning races at a rapid clip here in 2025 across multiple disciplines. So that's a team to watch, headed up by Rafael Martinez with some help from longtime paddock member Tony Calderon. keep an eye on them for the future. But your overall winners today, Kevin Boehm and Kenton Cook, and Random Vandals, 2 victories and 3 podiums across their 3 cars here in Pirelli GT4 America. Maybe the best day the team has had in this series.
Yeah, really strong effort. They got all of the jigsaw pieces in place to figure out the puzzle this year.
They still have another race to come, a double podium yesterday in GT World Challenge America. They'll go for one better, looking for a race win. In the meantime, here are the results from the second race of the weekend for Pirelli GT4 America. Kevin Boehm and Kenton Cook by 6.2 seconds at the checkered flag, ahead of Gresham Wagner and Tyler Gonzalez. Great bounce back from them and the other Rafa Racing entry after the misfortune yesterday. Sam Craven, Josh Green, 3rd overall, but the win in Pro-Am, and the way Craven drove towards the end, great pace. Had the table set nicely by Josh, but Sam showed something here too.
They really did. That's a great combination as well. They certainly come stacked this year. These driver lineups are out of control, how strong they are.
Oh, there's a look at Victory Lane. A winning race car is beautiful, even if it has some battle scars, as we see for our AM class winners. No such battle scars, though, for this pairing. Kenton Cook on the right, Kevin Boehm out of the car now, working to get that helmet off, and we'll be hearing from them here shortly. That's Sam Craven. He'll be celebrating with his young teammate. Great to see for them. Fantastic result, as mentioned, for Random Vandals. And I'm not sure that's part of the homologation, Cal.
Who knows? Maybe fix some understeer there at the end of the race.
Eddie Colleen and Mark Miller will want that piece back off of their Mercedes, but at least part of their car went to Victory Lane today.
Yeah, that's right. A little extra dive plane on the front end.
So Victory Lane, a busy place, and we'll head there in just a little while.
Thank you so much.
Results, though, and highlights of the second race of the day. It started in single file formation because of heavy, heavy rain, moisture all around the racetrack, but it was a very clean opening stint to this race. Did have a couple of moments, though. Parker Thompson relinquished the overall lead with that off and on, but was able to continue despite the drama. Speaking of drama, Porsche on Porsche violence there as Michael Oriema got into the side of Kurt Swearingen. Side-by-side fight within the AM class. This was going for the lead at the time. 3 cars actually all stuck together. Big moment here as Gerasi got into the side of Colleen, took the shortcut, was penalized 30 seconds, still managed to come home with the victory. That's the move that put Kevin Boehm in the lead of the race, a lead he would not relinquish. Others still had wild rides to go on, but it was Random Vandals that took the overall victory, a double podium for them on the season opener. And there's the celebration for the Random Vandals team. 2 wins today, racking up the podiums across the weekend. 3 podiums alone in this race in Pirelli GT4 America. So many smiles, so many hugs. This is what you dream about all off season.
It really is. A lot of preparation. We talked about it yesterday. You're thinking about the 2025 season at the drop of the checkered flag at Indy last fall. So much effort. And there's disappointments yesterday, but big bounce backs today, including that one for Paul Sparta with a podium run.
Let's hear from our winners now with Amanda.
Oh, and big team, congratulations down here for Random Vandals. We'll start with the overall winner and Kevin Boehm and that move. It showed up in the highlights. How did you plan that on Gresham Wagner?
Well, I didn't figure I was going to get many opportunities, so he went a little wide coming out of turn 6, and I made him defend, and then I knew that the grip was just all over the place in turn 7, so whatever he did, I was going to do the opposite and see what happened, and it just barely worked out. So yeah, no real plan, but just have to take advantage of everything when it comes to you, I guess.
Well, Kent and Tyler and Grisham did come over here after the race, and there were some hugs between you guys, but why is this a battle we're going to see all season?
I mean, it's just a pretty good field here in Silver, and yeah, just super happy to have Kevin as a co-driver here. He really freaking stepped up today and freaking put it up there. So I don't know how he had tire left at the end because I sure didn't give him any. So I think we did a good thing on when we dropped the pressures in the stop and dropped him more than maybe we thought we should, but it ended up working out okay. And yeah, he went and ran him down and pass for the win. So I'm gonna turn into a Pirelli tire commercial here shortly because frick, these things held up pretty good.
Well, as I walk over to our Pro-Am winners, I'm going to sneak by Paul Sparta, who's walking around looking for his own hat for celebrations in the podium that will happen here just shortly. And guys, congratulations on a win here in class. As we kicked off this season, Paul Sparta was quoted saying, "I'm not sure what my raccoons will do this season, but every single car will make it on podium today," and you guys with the win. What's it been like being part of the Random Vandals family?
Look, Random Vandals family is an awesome family. This was sweet redemption off of yesterday. We certainly needed it. I'm super happy to have Josh as my co-driver. We made a ton of progress in the off season. Sorry, just on my family.
He deserves it, dude.
Oh man, sorry.
A beautiful celebration down here. And Josh, can you just tell us how the track evolved throughout your stint?
Oh man, you know, with any drying track, it did what they all do, right? Look at all the cars. They're all covered in dirt. They look disgusting, which is pretty cool. But for the most part, you know, it started out really wet. I think we were really strong when it was really wet. As it started to dry and we lost the rear tire, some of the other cars started coming. That McLaren specifically, the Black Dog car, that was haunting me down at the end. And then honestly, like, gave the car to Sam, and Sam was an absolute rock star. Like, you guys all watched it. Sam's pace was insane. He did a really good job conserving the car, saving the tire, and so at the end of the stint, he was just chilling on a Sunday drive.
Enjoy it. Going to get over to our AM winners today here as well. What a weekend on debut for this Rafa Racing team. Anthony Granacci, Kenny Schmid, and I talked to you right before you got in that car, and you said, I like racing in the rain, but you show up with a little accessory here. How tough was it out there?
I got to tell you, the track was getting better as the race went on, and we got into the incident, and luckily I was able to stay with the leaders and follow their pace, and we came out ahead. So I'm very fortunate to SRO, Pirelli, Rafa, Antolini Tech, and Gerasi. Thank you very much.
And Kenny, just quickly, could you have had a better weekend?
No, absolutely not. You know, it was so tricky at the start, and I just trusted he was going to bring it home, so I just tried to keep it real safe. But, yeah, I mean, hand it over to him. He just crushed it at the end, and for sure. So just so happy to be here. Yeah, right there. It's going to go on the wall.
Back to you guys.
Well, this weekend had a little bit of everything, didn't it? And up next, we head down to Texas. Circuit of the Americas, the next stop for Pirelli GT4 America.